What is up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare Minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire Leadership podcast. And today I have a special treat for you, a Medicare rock star himself, Mr. Greg Gurbikian. Greg, will you say hey to everyone real quickly?
Hey, Rob. Again, thank you. Thank you for having me on. And I love what you're doing. Everybody needs a minister, so hey, why not Medicare throw one in there too? So let's go.
Hey, yeah, man, I'm glad to have you on, and thank you. I know you're a busy guy, so thank you for being generous with your time today. And I know Greg's going to bring it, but before we jump into that today, I want to remind all of you to please like, comment, subscribe, turn your notifications on, so that way every time we drop fresh content like this, you will be notified. And here's why we're doing these things, these videos like this, these interviews like this, is because we believe that you deserve to win. I truly believe that you were made on purpose for a purpose. And I know Greg's going to share, he's going to bring some fire, he's going to spit some fire for us today that's going to help put fresh wind in your sails, because we want you to keep moving toward your dreams and your goals for your life. So Greg, what I always do to kick these off is just always have people share a little bit of their background, maybe where you came from, a little bit in the middle up into this present day. So do you mind doing that for us?
Yep. No. So, it's funny you brought that up, because normally when I would do trainings and things like that, what I would typically do is I'd go around the room and I'd ask everybody to, essentially, first name, last name, who they were, what their hobbies were.
Sure.
And then, and then what was something that the group would not know about them. And it's funny, I've heard some crazy things. I mean, one guy had web feet. That was something
wow.
Like, nobody's going to know this about me, but I've got web feet, So
yeah.
It was interesting to hear some of the different things. But what really kind of came out of it, and the reason why I did those, was to let everybody know that we all have something in common.
Sure.
Every human being has something in common. So what I was doing when I was doing those exercises, I was trying to find out what it was that we had in common, and so, look at hobbies and things like that. When I went through those three things with name, hobby, what they, something they didn't know, I'd always pick out something that we had in common. So when it came to me, I would let people know that something that nobody would probably know about me, and it's perfect that I'm on the Medicare Minister right now, is that my parents were missionaries.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
Not only were they missionaries, but they were missionaries in Africa. So I was actually in Africa until I was about 17 years old. I was actually born in Switzerland.
Okay.
My parents, my dad and my mom got married late in life, and so they immediately went to Switzerland to learn the French language. And then I was born there, and then I was quickly swept off to Africa. And so I've got a unique perspective of the world, because I lived there for a long time. So we go 4 years there, a year back, 4 years there. And then finally, when I was 17 years old, I wanted to kind of pursue sport. And so my parents still were staying over there in a country called Ivory Coast, West Africa. So that movie, The Blood Diamond, with Leonardo DiCaprio,
Yeah,
that actually
I remember
happened.
that. Yeah.
Yep, that happened in the country right next to me.
Okay.
And so, although I didn't live in that country, I was there when that all happened. So I'm very familiar with that entire story. So it was kind of interesting watching on TV. But that's something that somebody wouldn't know about me. I on my senior year of high school, I decided I want to come back to the States, but my parents didn't have really anyone to send me to except for one individual, and that was my cousins. And they lived in Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Okay.
So I actually went to Grand Forks, North Dakota, and graduated from there my senior year of high school, and from there tried to pursue basketball, and that didn't work. I'm 5'10" and a half, and that's kind of where the joke stops right there. So, I wish somebody kind of grabbed me and said, "Hey, that's probably not the career path you should go down."
Right.
But that's where I went, and finished up my college, and then fell in love with sales, and just fell in love with dealing with people, and that's kind of a little background on myself, and kind of somebody would never not know about me.
Sure. And so I know from our talk at 8%, but also for some other interviews, you really have mastered the call center approach to insurance and Medicare. Can you give us some numbers and some team numbers and maybe volume numbers of what you've managed and what you've been able to accomplish in that space?
So, I mean, we started this company. I started this company about 8 years ago, and right now we're up to about, I think we're about to up to 30 agents right now.
Wow. Okay.
We've got a brick and mortar building, so we've got a couple agents that work remotely, but primarily our focus is brick and mortar. So we're trying to get to our call center can hold 78 agents. But I think comfortably we can do about 60. So our goal right now is to get to 50 here soon. We've got another training class that's starting in I think about a week and a half that we're trying to get another 10 people on there. So again, we're that's kind of where we're at right now as far as the call center.
So you handle both sides of it, the brick and mortar and the call center.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Do you guys have any kind of premium numbers? And the only reason I bring that up is because when people watch this, unfortunately, sometimes when you don't have that type of credibility, they're going, why should I listen to that guy? So do you have kind of numbers that your agency's doing?
So you're talking about per agent, or are you talking about
just as a whole? You don't have to give me specific.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're doing right now about 1.3 per agent as far as Med Sup or a Medicare Advantage plan.
Wow.
So and then our ancillary products are separate from that, but our ancillary products are pretty pretty good attachment rate. We're right. We go anywhere between about 45% to about 55% on a given day as far as our attachment rate when it comes to DVH and cancer. So we're always trying to, we have some days that are 70%, which is great, but I think the average would say probably, if I get to lock me down, I'd say probably about 45% attachment rate. So yeah.
Sure. No, that's great, man. And like I said, I bring that up just because I mean, I've seen you and heard some of your stuff before, but just wanted other people that maybe watch this, because our channel just doesn't cater to the insurance industry, but we interview people from other spaces, just entrepreneurs in general, those that are willing to take a risk and a bet on themselves. So I want to go back to the missionary thing. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that faith is a central part of your life. Is that correct? Is that a correct assumption? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
So tell me how that has been vital in your overall success in your journey. Do you mind sharing a little bit of that with us today?
Absolutely. So, I mean, as far as the, that's always been the North Star, as far as what, what we do. So, I always want to, at the end of the day, I always want to make sure that not only are we touching lives, but we're doing it in a way that's not about us. And so, one of the big things that I always, preach, if you want to say it, preach, is I always preach that all this stuff is bigger than just you and I. Yeah. And I try to translate that over to the phone. That's, I think, what made me very successful in sales in general, is that I realized that it was not about me when I was talking to somebody else. It was about that other person. Initially, when I first got into sales, it was about me. It was all about me. And I had, what I'd call an adversarial type of approach.
Sure.
And I think that's the old, for some of the, maybe younger individuals that are coming into sales right now is, I think either A, they're being taught that, or they're being taught a very transactional approach. So, before it was very adversarial. Now I think it's kind of moving into more of a transactional approach. And I think that's why a lot of people, have problems and they don't succeed, is because they're doing more of a transactional approach, right? I preach a relationship approach. And so once I start implementing a relationship approach, my whole world changed. It changed because I made it all about the other person and not about me. And that they felt that when I was talking to somebody over the phone.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I agree. I'm totally big on that. I actually believe, for me, Medicare is a ministry. I mean, I'm in my office here in Tupelo, Mississippi, and I pray with my clients. I as a former pastor and church planner, I counsel with my clients, and I don't do it to get the sale. I do it because it's who I am. And out of making an impact in their lives through my faith, the income follows. And so I teach our agents here, the more impact you make, like sincerely, the more income will follow. It's just a divine principle that is put in place. So I definitely love hearing that. Let me ask you this. Was there a paradigm shift, a defining moment in your life where it went from transactional to relational? Is there a book you read, a mentor that you listened to, or just something you read or heard?
Yep. No, great. I'm glad you brought that up. So yeah, so I think the paradigm shift for me was when I read the book, the greatest salesman in the world by Og Mandino.
Yeah.
That, and I always tell people outside of the Bible, that is to me the greatest book that was ever written, because it really, have you read it before?
I haven't. I started, but I never finished. Yeah.
Oh, you got to read it. So it was such, I think I read somewhere that Matthew McConaughey read that book, and that actually is what led him into acting, because it just pushed him into that. It just motivated him to do that. But, in the book, something that I took away from that was this. It talked about, it's about, a camel herder thousands of years ago that in the book, he talked about the fact that, when he left the town that he lived in to go to the marketplace to sell his wares, he said that if he was focusing on his family and not focusing on the people in the marketplace, he was thinking, is my family safe at home? Are they being robbed? Are they being taken care of? If I'm focused on that and I'm not focused on the people at the marketplace that I'm trying to sell to, then I'm going to go back home with nothing for my family. So who's more effective? My family's more effective. And so that really kind of changed my thinking as when I was selling on the phone was, what? That really made me think, what? I have to focus so much on the other person, not think about anything else, not think about my family, not think about me, not think about. And so the illustration that I would give to somebody, I think you'll appreciate this, is this. If I'm walking across the Grand Canyon on a tightrope, and I was doing that this morning, would I be thinking about our podcast right now? Would I be thinking about my family? Or would I be thinking about every single step on that rope?
Right.
And so that's how I explain selling on the phone too. If you're concerned about other things, it's like you're on a tightrope and you're going to fall, because you're not concerned with what's in front of you. You're not concerned about the steps that you have, your process in place to be successful. Because once you take your eye off of that, then obviously if you're going over the Grand Canyon, that's the last trip you're ever making. That's kind of mindset that I would have when I would talk to people on the phone, when I would sell, is I would really put myself in that mindset of, okay, I'm walking across the Grand Canyon right now, and I've got to be very, very careful of everything I'm doing, make sure my process is in place. I practice this. I'm ready. I'm prepared for the resistance. I'm prepared for the objections. I'm prepared to take this, going forward. And so if I'm thinking about what's going on in my world, then unfortunately I'm going to miss a step. And then all of a sudden now, I become very unsuccessful. So I hope maybe that illustration helped out a little.
Yeah, no, I love painting that picture, and I'm going to get to this in just a second, but I want to stay in this lane for a moment.
Yep.
What do you think is the number one or one of the top character traits that someone phone selling needs to have? I mean, I know mental toughness, but is there something else that you think they must have this, or they must be able to cultivate in their lives when they transition maybe from in-person sales to now in the era that we live in? It seems more people now are wanting to do over the phone.
Right. I think it comes down to desire. It comes down to desire. Okay. I can tell you all day long exactly how to do it. I can give you the exact blueprint. And if you don't have the desire to do it, you're not going to do it. And I think I've noticed that over time, just training people, being around people. I've given people exactly steps. So why can I train a class of people, and some go out there and do it exactly like I told them and be very successful, and those don't, and they wonder why? So I remember a Christmas party that we had, and the top sales agent of our company was there. We're having our Christmas party. A couple people having some drinks. They walk up to this top salesperson and go, "What do you do that's so successful?" And she was like, "I just follow what Greg told me to do. That's it."
Yeah.
And you know what? Listening to her calls was literally verbatim everything I taught her to do. And our one of our top agents here in our office does exactly what I trained her to do. And it's not verbatim. She followed the process. She followed exactly step by step the process, and so it comes back to, I think, desire. Because if you see that those around you are being successful, then go ahead and follow that pattern. Follow that pattern of what they're doing, and I think it comes down to desire. If not, then it's then people start making excuses, and I think when excuses happen, it's because the desire is not there, because you're not going to make the excuse if you have the desire to do it.
Sure. And it's got to be this burning, deep desire to really want to change your situation, right? I mean, it's interesting you say that, because the same thing, I think we've all been there. For those that have trained agents or trained people in general, you get some that go, okay, I'm all in, going to have the faith and believe. And you have some that try to reinvent the wheel. Is excuses or reinventing the wheel some of the top reasons that you see why people don't follow? Or is it a pride thing? Is it an ego thing? Or what have you seen in your experience to keeping people from just following your step-by-step instructions?
I think it really comes down to a lack of desire, because if you desired it so bad, there's a great example. I'll give you a great example. So something that drove me crazy, it'd drive me nuts. So if you, Rob, had 0 sales for the day, what are you going to do the next day? Are you going to show up right on time? You're going to show up 5 minutes late? Or are you going to show up 30 minutes early to figure out what, so I don't repeat yesterday?
Right.
That comes down to desire. Okay.
Right.
Because that's what would drive me crazy, is the fact that I'd see sales agents that would blank out 1, maybe 2 days. And then I'd come up and ask them, say, hey, what did you do last night? You had a bad day yesterday. What did you do last night? What do you mean? What do I mean? What did you do to, well, I was getting my mind right. Come on. What did you do? So one of my top agents several years ago, I would come in sometimes, because I get their office early, and I'd see him sitting at his desk. And the first time I saw him do it, he had his hand up to his ear like this. And I'm like, what on earth is he doing? Like, I mean, it was kind of weird. And I was there. He was the only one in the office.
Right.
He's a top sales agent. Guy's hand, I walk over, I go, Eric, what are you doing?
Right.
He's like, hold on. Greg, I'm listening to my calls from yesterday to find out what I did wrong. I just figured out what I was doing wrong yesterday.
Right.
There's the formula right there. Is he was listening back to his phone calls to see how he could. He was the best one in our office. So that just shows you right there the desire and the commitment to constantly get better. It's just like Tom Brady. I mean, you look at Tom Brady and go, Tom Brady's the best quarterback in the league. And there was just actually an interview just recently with Rob Gronkowski. I don't know if you saw, I know they made a big deal about it, but Rob Gronkowski said that he doesn't watch any game film. He just kind of relies on Tom Brady to do it for him. And I think there's a little joking behind that, but you know what? There's Tom Brady that literally is getting up early, watching game film, looking at his footsteps, looking at what he's doing. Why does he have to do that? He's got 7 rings right now. He's trying to go for number 8. No, those steps matter. And it's because Tom Brady desires it so bad that he's going to go ahead and continually do that. Now, if Tom Brady didn't do that, he might only have 3 rings right now, 2 rings, because talent can only take you so far.
Right.
Talent can only take you so far. And so he realized that, I think very early, is that, if I want to keep duplicating this success, I have to practice. I have to practice. So one of the things I can say about even myself is that, I consider myself a really, really the best salesperson out there. You have to have that mentality. Sure. But I don't sit back and go, you know what? I'm really, really good. I don't have to do it. No, I'm constantly right now learning from, even from our agents as well. Because you can pick up anything, even from a bad agent, you can pick up something in your toolbox to actually use. So
no, I love what you're saying, because one of the things, I'm a big motivation guy, and obviously our channel, we do Monday motivations. We just started Finish Strong Fridays. But I always tell people, when motivation is not enough, is what you're saying, the Tom Brady's here, you got to cultivate those habits and disciplines in your life that when you don't feel like it, you make yourself feel like it because you're in that habit of doing those little things, the small things, the extra things that got you to that level. And that's what I hear you saying.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, and you can't, I talk about the fact of, I have this Medicare Rockstar brand. And I always say that, rock stars can easily become one-hit wonders.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay. Because they stop doing, they get their big break and they get their big record and they're like, wow, everybody's listening to my song. Like I'm really, really big out there. And then all of a sudden, before you know that, they're not. So a band that comes, that comes right to my mind because is a band named Tonic. I don't know if you've heard of them before. Tonic had one big song, If You Could Only See the Way She Loves Me.
Right.
I went and watched them perform in a stadium of like 20,000 people. They were the opening act. They weren't the headliner, but they're the opening act, but they still had a really big song. And the next time I saw them perform is I saw them perform down the road from me to about 100 people or less. So that shows you, the level that, that whatever the situation was, is that, because I know the story of it, he wrote that song, based off of a girl that he got married to, that he ran into a laundromat and started talking to her. And, that was kind of like what he told his mom is, if you can only see the way she, loves me. And so that kind of became a song, but nothing else happened from there. They relied on that one hit, and they're a one-hit wonder right now. So, I mean, those things you have to be very, very careful. You have to constantly, that desire inside of you has to continually be burning. You have to continually be working hard on it. So, I mean, like we were talking about motivation. One of the things I do, if you want, I read a book every single week.
Yeah. And
people are amazed by that. They're like, how do you read a book every single week?
Yeah.
I'm going to break it down to its fundamentals for your listeners and for your subscribers. An average book's about 240 pages.
Right.
Okay. Take 240 pages, you divide it by 7 days. That's 35 pages a day.
Right.
Okay? But you have to break it down even further than that. I time myself, and it takes me about 1:30 to read one page. I've tried reading it fast. I've tried reading it slow. I've tried taking notes all through a page. The average about 1:30 that it takes me to read a page. So if I'm going to read 35 pages, that means it's going to take me about 45 minutes to read that section for the day. So I have to set aside 45 minutes in order to do that. So my mindset is already my habits already created around that. So I can't sit down and go, okay, well, I'm going to pick up this book right now. I'm going to read 35 pages. And then I get to 10 pages. I'm like, oh, I got to go. Because the details, I didn't pay attention to the details. And so when you start doing that now becomes a habit. And then now I wake up early to be able to read that section. And I can tell you this just from personal experience is that when you hit about 20 pages of reading, your mind starts drifting. It's very, very tough once you hit 20 pages. That's from my experience. Everybody can be different. Yeah. But from my experience, once you hit 20 pages, it's so difficult because then you start thinking, okay, I got to start getting ready for work. I got to go to the gym. I got to do this. I got to do that. And at 20 pages, it starts really kind of you start kind of like shaking a little bit as far as like your mind goes. So you have to, what I do is at 20 pages, I kind of take a second, I reset my mind and go, okay, we got 15 more pages to go. Let's now concentrate. So I will almost like have like I didn't realize until I'm talking right now, I have like a halftime. Yeah. Like first 2 quarters, and then I have halftime for about, for about 30, 45 seconds, reset the mind. Okay, now it's time to get in the second half. So hopefully that maybe helped you out, help some of the listeners out as well as far as.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer, and I taught this in ministry and in people that I've mentored in outside of ministry, is whatever or whoever's content you consume the most is ultimately what you become like the most.
Correct.
And that's why the old adage, truism of leaders or readers, it's true. because we're constantly pouring content into our hearts, our spirit, our minds, however you want to say it, that is pointing us the direction that we want to go. And as you well know, it's a discipline. It's a discipline to read. I have an iPad that I read pretty much almost every night or every morning. I get up and I listen to some content or read some content and I journal. And I do that because by nature, I'm a very all over the place, shiny object guy. But I've had to discipline myself. And let me say this real quickly to all those watching. We live in a culture that wants the delight before the discipline. Right. And a lot of times, if you talk to any successful person like Greg and others, they will tell you that you have to be disciplined in order to get the delight, right? In other words, I can't expect a 6-pack of abs unless I go through the discipline of doing however many crunches it takes to get that. I can't have the big biceps and go to the gym unless I'm willing to discipline myself and do the things that need to be done. It's the same thing in insurance or any space. If you're not willing to do the little things, the Tom Brady things, if you will, if we can use that, then you can't expect to go to the next level in your business. Right? That's what Greg is ultimately saying. You need to understand this. What are you willing to do that no one else is willing to do to get to that next level? The other thing he's saying real quickly is I can't rely. I got awards behind me on the shelves and over here to my left, but I can't rely on last year's awards, right? Last year's awards are not going to help me with today's effort and this year's effort. And so I got to be willing to do even more, discipline myself even more to get to that next level. So thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you this. I ask this pretty much to everyone that comes on the show because success is one of those relative, subjective terms that we hear a lot of. How does Greg define success? But not only that, tell me what 20-year-old Greg's version of success was up into where you're at today and how that's matured.
Absolutely. So 20-year-old Greg's version of success was financial. It was, it was the cars, the houses, the beautiful women. That was success. You know what I mean? Just that was what success was to me. I wanted to be, I guess a rock star in sports, and then watching watching actors. I mean, that was success to me. Like you hit that type of thing, it was success. But along the way, what I found is that just listening to those that are very successful, that have hit that point where they've hit that level of success, there's something a lot of times that's always missing. It's always missing deep down. And I think that, even if you have a relationship with God, but you're pursuing those things so heavily, you're still going to have that emptiness within you because you hit that level that society has said is very, very successful, but there's something that's missing down inside of you. So now this version of Greg has a totally different attitude towards success. To me, success is very, very easy. Success is seeing other people succeed. That's my definition of success. Now, seeing other people succeed, because guess what? There's billionaires out there that you'll never hear about. There's millionaires that you'll never hear about because they all made it about them. It was all about them. And unfortunately, that they all have something in common. They're no longer around. It's those that really impacted other people, like you're doing, Rob. So kudos to you. I mean, I love what you're doing, and I know that you're very, very successful in what you're doing as well, and you'll be successful in anything that you do, is because you're always making it about other people. And so at the end of the day, someone like Mother Teresa, did she have all the cars and all the houses and the millions of dollars? No, she's remembered because she made it all about other people. And that's what my definition of success is making it all about somebody else. And that's what translated to sales. So kind of full circle back to sales is always making it about someone else. And you'll appreciate this as a minister, because I've always said this, is that I believe that marriages fail because the other person has stopped selling to the other person. I see everything as a sale. So those little things that you were doing when you first met, all of a sudden you feel like, quote unquote, you signed the contract. So guess what? I've signed the contract. The deal is done. So I don't have to really kind of do this anymore. you have to constantly be selling to that other person, because I always say, if you stop selling, somebody else is going to sell for you, and that you don't want. And that's what that's where divorces end up happening. So that's my definition of success.
No, I love that. And one of the things that I teach here, we do a daily motivational / spiritual time together. I believe in cultivating healthy soil. But I tell my agents all the time, and it blesses me when they even have small wins. Like one of my agents was able to take his family to the beach for the first, rented the whole beach condo, paid for the sisters to come down and be part of that. And that brought me great joy because he was a pastor on staff with me at the church plant that I used to be at, and bring him into this industry and see him, even though that may not be a big win for a lot of people, the cars and the big houses, that's a small win. And true leaders, I believe, understand this, that their lives never truly make sense until they're making a difference in the life of other people.
100%.
And so I love what you're saying there. I truly believe that. And I love the marriage thing too, because I have been guilty of not selling enough, if you will, of being guilty of doing those little things. And it's times that as you get older, especially, you're reminded of the important things and the small things, to keep dating your spouse, to keep doing those things. So I love what you're saying. Real quickly, give us some things that you do there to cultivate healthy soil for both your brick and mortar as well as your call center. Do you guys do motivation? Do you have them read books?
Yeah. So I give them book topics. I've got a lot of videos that are coming out to help with that motivation side of it. I'm always constantly walking around, just talking to people, finding out what's kind of going on. And so one of the things that you just kind of brought up, that this morning I emailed one of our staff members that's been with us for a little while now.
Sure.
And and she, I just told her, I say, no, I really, really appreciate you. I'm telling you that from the bottom of my heart. I say, I really appreciate you. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm glad seeing you have grow to where you're at right now, because you started with us. And I've just seen her just succeed. And I took the time to say that to her. And she emailed me back and she said, thank you so much. She said, I am so lucky to work here because my daughter has a better life right now because of what you've helped me with.
That's
and I
good.
literally read that email and I had to really honestly catch myself from crying. Luckily, I was in my office by myself. But that's, those are the things. It's the little things that you're doing that are impacting other people's lives. And if you've heard me maybe say this before, I constantly am preaching this over and over and over again. It's just, I'm such a firm believer in using people's first names. And so throughout the entire day, if you're with me and we're driving around, we're going places, everywhere I go, I sit there and ask the person for their name. I went to lunch today, and this guy's name was Caleb, and he had his mask on, trying to deliver something. I asked him for his name. He said I couldn't understand what it was. I'm so sorry. I didn't catch your first name. Pull down his mask, Caleb, big smile on his face. Nobody's probably all day long going to ask him what his name is.
Sure.
But I took the time to do that, and just because I think we're all human beings, and we all have the same deep down inside. I think there's a rock star in every single one of us. There's a rock star in there that wants to come out. There's a volcano that wants to come out, but just life just kind of pushes you down sometimes.
Yeah.
And that motivation you're doing, kudos to you. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think people can get enough of that, that motivation. And because when I talk about rock star within each one of us is this, is that if you look at your fingertip and you look at your thumbprint, there's no other thumbprint in history that's the same as yours. And that literally blows my mind. It blows my mind that out of millions and billions of people, there's not some pattern that's exactly the same.
Right.
And so I researched it. And the reason that we have these ridges on our fingers is because scientists say that we did those in the womb. And we did it because we were clawing our way in the womb, trying to survive. And that's where these patterns have come from, is because this is all. So I keep looking at those and remind myself that at one point in time, I literally fought to survive. But unfortunately, and every one of us have done it. And it's in your mind. It's in your mind. It's right there. It's right in your mind. But then we come into this world, and sometimes we're kind of babied. Life kind of, especially I think in this country, is that you feel like you're entitled to something, and that we stop. But deep down inside, those fingers are still there as proof that we were fighters. And that's what I try to bring on everybody else, is bring out that fighter, that desire, because it's there. It just has been suppressed so much. And, unfortunately for some people, they just can't bring it out. And it's just, it's a mindset. That's all it is.
Yeah, no, I like to say it this way, that we were all made on purpose for a purpose,
Absolutely.
right?
100%.
And I believe in living on purpose, but I do believe what you're saying is that sometimes we forget that, whether that's through our upbringing, whether that's just life kicking us in the gut, if you will, or just an entree of things going on. But I want to share this because I love what you're saying. Is about a few years back, I had really kind of lost that a little bit. And I've always been an upbeat guy, motivational, driven, but just life for various reasons had really just kind of beaten me up. And I ran across a fellow pastor, and he didn't know this at the time, but I really believe in divine appointments. And this was a divine appointment a few years back, but God really used him to re-spark that flame of purpose in my life, again, if you will. And so here's the point that I'm making, and I believe what Greg is really sharing with us, is that you're going to infect people with something, whether you realize it or not. I want to infect them with purpose. That's why I do what I do. When people come on the show, we're doing this spitting fire, or whether it's Monday motivation or sharing a scripture. Really, what I'm ultimately hoping to do is that it will spark that flame of purpose in their life again, because maybe they were like me a few years ago, where I hadn't given up necessarily, but it was just laying dormant. And so I love that you're calling people's first name, that you're taking time to appreciate them. I do the same thing for our agents here. I want to make sure they're not just tolerated, but they're genuinely appreciated, like they matter, that someone cares if they come or not.
No, 100%. I mean, it's one of those things that I think that, I think I just read it just recently, which is totally, you can't stop the thoughts that come in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Realize that. I mean, we can't,
Right.
especially as a minister too, is that,
Right.
You cannot stop the negative thoughts that are coming in. I
Right.
think that's where a lot of people, go wrong. Is like, well, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to focus so hard that I'm not. No, you can't stop the thoughts from coming in. What you can do is make sure that those thoughts are being pushed in a positive way.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's really it is. I think that really. I'd read that just recently, and I'm like, I never really thought about it that way. I can't stop the thoughts from coming into my head. I can't stop that negativity of like, I can't believe that person did this to me. I can't believe this happened. You can't stop those thoughts. That's just our human nature.
Right.
But what you can do is just is reprogram that. And the only way to do that is by constantly working on yourself through motivation, through understanding that you do have a purpose, like you said. I think you hit it right on the head, Rob. Is that if you don't have a purpose, it's so hard to have that desire. It's so hard to have that fire within you if you have no purpose at all. Because at the end, money is not going to give you purpose. You have to find out exactly what that purpose is, and then you have to go. I call it, I call it defining moments in your life. They're defining moments that give you that purpose. And you really have to look at what those defining moments are. So let me ask you, what's a defining moment for you? Like, what would you say?
I would say a defining moment for me was a few years back. And actually, this pastor friend is a friend of mine. Short version, always been entrepreneurial, always had side hustles, if I can use that terminology. I've owned my own business, but I had fallen into a JOB mentality. And listen, full transparency, the ministry, a lot of times there's this prevailing thought that you have to be a broke minister. And so that mindset had permeated my life, and I was struggling as a minister, but yet I knew I had this 7-figure gift set. But I had said, well, I'm in ministry now. I got to put that aside. And so that had really beat me down. And several years ago, there was this pastor who wanted to move into the old locations. We had moved our church plant. We had graduated to a bigger location. So I met him for lunch, helped him move into our old location. And through that was birth of friendship. This is a true story. And he told me this, and this is for someone, because I have a lot of people in faith that watch this channel. He said, you'll preach the best messages when you're financially free. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, that makes a lot of sense. I don't have to worry about the offerings. I don't have to worry, because the church didn't pay me anything. I didn't take anything from the church. I mean, they gave me some love offerings and, little something like that. But really, I didn't get paid anything. And it's those words that he's spoken to my life or over my life really was a defining moment in my life. And here I am a few years later and back on track to where I was years ago when I owned my own business using the skill set that God gave me. So that's a great question.
It's one of those things where I think, as a pastor, I think, as somebody that's a believer too, is that I think the scripture of money is the root of all evil. It has been totally misinterpreted, because money is not the root of all evil. The love of money is what's the root of all evil, because money can help somebody else. Money can pull somebody out of a bad situation. So I always tell people, and this is going back to my sales thing, is that you can sell your way out of a bad situation. You can sell your way out of a bad situation. If you become a really good salesperson, you can sell yourself out of a bad situation. So one of my very first sales mentors told me, he said, Greg, if you can learn how to sell, he goes, you will never go hungry.
Yep.
You will never go hungry.
Yeah.
He said, if you can sell. And so that's really where I learned the psychology of how people think. And it's not really hard, because we're human beings and we think the same way. We think the same way. We want people to edify us. We want people to make it about us. We want people that care about us. It's always say, people don't care what you know. They just want to know that you care. That's it. Yeah. If you can show somebody you can care, half the sales already done right there. You can show somebody you can care, but we, unfortunately, most sales agents don't do that. They're caring about themselves. Okay, let me give you a quote. Like, what are you paying? It's going down that road of just so transactional that you're not making it about the other person. And unfortunately, you wonder why your sales aren't going up. It's because you made it about you. No, I did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. And that's why the other person didn't buy from you, because we're the same person. And they realized, no, wait a minute. You're making it about you. You weren't making it about me.
Yeah. I love it, because I've heard it said this way, that true salespeople that care want the most best outcome for their client, maybe just as much or more for their client, right? And it takes a lot of work on yourself to get rid of that selfish commission breath mindset that many of us fallen into. I've been there too early in my career. But it takes, as you're maturing and growing and being others focused. And real quickly to the love of money, then I want to ask you a couple more things as we close. But I always teach people this, and taught people this in the faith as well, is that I choose to love the money giver, which I believe is God, that God gives us to manage, more than the money, because when it's vertically healthy, he can trust me with the money so I can do more things for more people, right? And that's why the love of money is so dangerous. And I agree with you. It's not money, it's the love of money. And so thank you for bringing that up. Couple of more questions here as we close today. Go ahead.
Real quick, and then I'll let you go. So you hit on something right then as well, is that many, many, many years ago, I started tithing 10% of my income.
Yep.
Okay. And at the time, I was only making $500 a week. So that was $50 a week that I was tithing. But I started that habit very, very early.
Yeah.
And it gets harder as you start making some money, because now you're like, wait a minute, 10% of that is a little bit more. Yeah. But you know what? Like you just said, when you give it away and you do it unselfishly, the vertical thing is like, I'm going to bless you even more because of that. But the tithing is not there to get more. The tithing is there to be faithful. And if you're faithful, then at that point, he'll take care of you. It might not be financially, but he's going to take care of you. And that's just that, that's, I'm glad you brought that up.
Sure. No, and that's a great question. And I could do several podcasts on that, and maybe we'll revisit that. But yeah. And it is that way. It's just maturing and growing in that.
Yep.
If there was one word that you could use to describe Greg, what would that be?
Wow, that's a good one. Passion.
Okay. So the second part of that is, how has that passion helped you get to the level where you're at throughout your journey?
So the passion has helped me in every aspect of my life, because whenever I'm super passionate about something, I give everything of myself. So I'm very, very passionate about sales. Like, and that, I joke with people, I think everything in life is a sale. So it's just so I study everything because I'm so passionate about it, so that allows me to be passionate about my family. It makes me passionate about, about other people. So I think, I was going to say drive, because I think that's a big one, but the passion is what creates the drive. The passion is what creates the work ethic. But I like what you said, purpose. I mean, that's, I think that's kind of the same word is you have purpose, you have passion. They kind of go all together, is that purpose, passion, and then people. So I guess we can look at the 3 P's right there. So
hey, that's your next book, man. That's your next book. Just give me some royalties off of that, man. Don't forget the little man. But no, I totally agree with you. And it's my passion truly to get on this podcast. And I tell people all the time, it's really just taking massive and perfect action. I mean, I don't have a cool backdrop. I probably don't have the best camera and lighting. I don't know what I'm doing half the time, but I know it's my purpose to interview leaders like you throughout spaces, because it puts fresh wind in my sails, right? When I hear people like you've gone through similar journeys, when I receive knowledge, I mean, I'm sitting here taking notes, man, and as we're talking, because I want to grow and I want to be better, but it's my purpose. It's my calling. And you don't have to beg me to get on this thing. I'm ready to go.
Yep.
And so I love what you're saying, passion and purpose. And I think also what it boils down to is it does feel that desire, right? And I believe once you know your purpose, it really changes your want tos. Let me say that again. Once you really discover your purpose, if you're watching this, I really believe it changes your want tos. Nothing wrong with Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, and all that, but you don't want to do that as much because you want to work on your craft. You want to work on you. Your purpose changes your want tos. Once again, I want to be very clear. Don't take away from this that Rob doesn't have. I love movies, but if movies is getting in the way of my purpose, I'm going to cut that off, because I know that I won't find ultimate fulfillment unless I'm living on purpose. So
I just saw something the other day. So I'm glad you just brought that up. 70% of the things that people watch, they don't even care about.
Yep.
70% of what people watch, they don't even care about. So, I mean, just an absolute time killers. They're watching something that they don't even care about. And it's funny because I don't watch many things anymore, because there's nothing out there that really grabs my attention that much. I mean, the movies have kind of changed a little bit. I mean, I think there's a lot better movies a while back with it, but a lot of those really, really good movies are just not there anymore. Those movies, those Titanic type of movies, are just not there anymore. And so people start watching things that they really don't care about. They really don't show. They don't, but they're wasting that time. So one of the things that, I'd asked you the question about, defining moment, purpose. So I'll tell you my defining moment, my purpose that changed my entire life. Because I think every individual has a defining moment that changes the course of their entire life. Mm-hmm. So my defining moment was when my dad's birthday when he was alive. And it was his birthday. I didn't have much money, so I wanted to get him a really cool gift. And I had a client at the time that did ancestry stuff. Mm-hmm. This was before Ancestry.com ever became a thing. So she had told me, she's like, just tell me a little about your family, your dad's date of birth, things like that. So my last name is Gurbikian. It's an unusual name, but it's Armenian. So anybody that has IAN at the end of their name is always of Armenian descent. So Kardashian, Gurbikian. So anytime you write into a IAN, it's always of Armenian descent. So she said, I'll spend a couple hours. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but I'll see if I can find anything of your family. And, my dad hadn't told me much about our family. She came back and had so much stuff, Rob. She had the book. So my grandparents fled from Armenia during the Armenian genocide. So my grandmother didn't know her parents. They were killed. She was in an orphanage. She fled. And she showed me the boats that they came over. They actually had pictures of the actual boats on Ellis Island. They had the manifest. I learned that my grandfather actually went to Philadelphia. My grandmother went to New York. They didn't even know each other. They met, they got married. My grandfather actually was married previously to my grandmother and didn't have any kids with her. And I'm looking at all this stuff and I just start bawling like a little kid. And I go, wait a minute, time out. They did all of this to get you to this land of opportunity.
That's good.
And you're just going to be a lounge act for the rest of your life? No. That was my rock star defining moment that said, you know what? You have to create a legacy. You have to help other people out. You got to do other things besides sitting on a couch, watching Netflix all day long. You've got to. Now that journey has obviously increased over time, but that was kind of that switch that went, I have, and I think each one of us have that because, you know, we're all immigrants. You're here, from somebody way back in time that came here, that gave you this opportunity. So everybody's listening to this right now has that moment where if we can go back hundreds of years, our forefathers would go, what are you doing with your life right now? Do you see where we're at and like where you're at in history?
Right.
Let's go.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that. And maybe if you're watching today, you need to go back and have a sobering moment and really think about that if you're lacking purpose or if you're lacking that desire today. So thank you, Greg, for sharing that. As we close today, where can we find you? I know you have the Medicare Rockstars Facebook group.
Yep. Okay. You can look me up on Facebook, Greg Gurbikian, become a friend of mine on Greg Gurbikian. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Greg Gurbikian there as well. So, yep, any one of those social media sites, just look up Greg Gurbikian or Medicare Rockstars, and you'll find me anywhere there. So absolutely.
Sure. And listen, if you're watching this today and you're wanting to transition to some phone sales or you're wanting to learn some tactics, I know if you reach out to Greg, he'd be more than happy to pour into your life because he wants to see you win.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Greg, thank you once again for coming on, man. I know you're a busy guy and have had a busy week, so I appreciate you being so generous. And as we close today, I just want to remind you again, you deserve to win. You really do. Greg can't make you see it. I can't make you see it. You got to really see it for yourself. We can't make you do it, but today he has brought some serious fire that I pray puts fresh wind in your sails, that wakes you up, so to speak, that goes, you know what? This is the day. This is my defining moment after watching this podcast that I'm going to go and win because I was made on purpose for a purpose. Listen, Rob here once again, the Medicare Minister. God bless you guys. Make it an awesome day, and we will see you soon.